The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Get ready to be amazed. Get ready to know things that nobody could know. Get ready for Recovery Wednesday with America's original radio psychic, Dr. Linda Salvin, along with Candy Finnegan from the Emmy Award-winning television show Intervention. Candy brings her more than 30 years of experience dealing with all areas of recovery. Listen as Candy and Dr. Linda bring expert guests into the conversation to bring your recovery to the next level. Together, they bring you the tools and techniques that bring balance and serenity to your life. For nearly 30 years as a syndicated talk show host and metaphysical clinician, Dr. Linda has helped thousands of people worldwide solve problems on the air and in person with her insights and solutions. So pull up a chair, turn it up, and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Recovery Wednesday with me, Dr. Linda Salvin, and of course, my wonderful show host. Let's bring her on, co-host Candy Finnegan. And hi there, Candy.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, don't ask.
It's been a weird week. The good news is the retrograde is over in 2 more days, and all this bumpy, weird, kinetic energy will be.
Have anything to do with 2 kids?
Well, that's part of it, but they happened to come in and returned home through the retrograde. Think all RE words: return, real estate, relegate, reminisce, all of it, reminisce and regret. All the RE words come up strong in the retrograde, as you know, and things break or don't go right, or things get canceled, and it's a mishmash for about 3 weeks, and then we get back on track for 3 months, then we go through it again. Other than that, we're cool. Today's broadcast, folks, we're going to be talking about the difference between spirituality and religion, or religion and spirituality. There's so many different takes on it that we ourselves have experienced our own awakening spiritually as a result of what we do as a practice, as to what brought Candy and me together many years ago, 36 years ago, a long time ago. We've been friends. And we both help people in our individual careers. But the basics and the foundation that we teach from and speak from and live with, that we try to pass on to people like you, comes from a spiritual foundation, not religious. And you're going to hear the difference as to how we've discovered that through our years on the journey, as to what really makes that different opinion work, because religion can brainwash us, or you get stuck in the way you were brought up thinking that's the only way there is to live or pray or find God. How were you brought up to trust or believe?
I was brought up in the Catholic religion and the Episcopal. So the difference with Episcopal is you can get divorced.
Right. Yeah, wasn't the one person didn't like it? He was married and wanted a divorce. He started a new religion, right?
Yeah, and it's not as ritualistic, certainly, as Catholicism. I went to a girls' Catholic convent high school for 4 years, and that put a whole nother swing on it, to be honest with you, because I was taught by BVM nuns, which is the equivalent to Jesuits, the highly educated sector of religious. And we had a few lay teachers, but I was, they had the black habits and the rattling beads, boy. And, I personally, just because of who I am, was never horribly intimidated. I got called down all the time because I called them stir instead of sister. I go, hey, stir. And they go, no, Candy, it's sister.
So you were rebellious even as a child.
I just had to buck the system. but I just a funny quick story. So my daughter's in town. She lives in Oregon. And
Yes,
we were
country,
looking for
yes.
something of my mother-in-law's last night. And she was sitting on the floor in the living room in the bookcase, and we were going through it. And she hit the Bible shelf. And I put those books up there, but I certainly don't look at them. And my family and myself, we had 17 Bibles.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I had one when I was a little girl that was white, one when I got confirmed, one when I went to Catholic high school, because we all got them with their names on it. I had my grandmother's, my father's, my mother's, Mike's when he got confirmed, my husband's, and my dad's army one from World War II.
Wow.
Which is a little teeny thing. And of course, I took it upon myself to, it said in the inside, when you unsnap it, it says priest. And I, of course, wrote Candy House. So, that's how.
When my mom passed away and I was helping my father clean out a lot of the shelves and things, I came across his bar mitzvah Bible, which I now have, because he could care less. He doesn't believe in God, never will, never did. And then here I am preaching, always talking about God's spirituality, the total opposite of a very left-brain human. But I have his Bible, and I look at it every now and then. And I have always had a passion for religion or God or spirituality. I've always wondered, and there were times I'd feel guilty because I wanted to know more about the non-Jewish religions, and we're not supposed to talk about Christ. Then one day I figured it out. He's just another human, and people believed in him, and no more than Buddha or Hindu, and all of a sudden it became all one. But yeah, growing up was different, just like with you. And there's some interesting things in the Bible. I think some of the passages in both the Old and New Testament are beautiful. Some things do come true. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know who channeled it.
Well, it's funny because Mike always thought, and he did, he took a lot of religious comparisons in college. And of course, he had Catholicism in a small town in Ohio, but it was a study group. And because they didn't have Catholic schools. And so he always thought it was like folklore. Because, you got your AD, you get you get your before, you got your after, and it was, really one person telling a story and how it ended up, because no one was present when any of this happened.
But somebody channeled it or somebody came up with it.
And you've got this, whatever saint, somebody.
You got all the different saints, you got all the different opinions, you got all the different stories. But this show's not about pulling apart the Bible, folks. This show is about God, good orderly direction, whatever God means to you. If you have a religious upbringing and a passion for your methodology, that's great. I'm Jewish. I'm coming into the Jewish New Year this weekend. And no, I'm not going to temple, and I don't belong to the Chabad right now. I'm doing my own thing. I'm actually going to be up in a town just north of here with my godchildren up in Santa Clarita, because my friend's parents are coming in from Arkansas, and they invited me for dinner. I'm like, well, okay. Instead of going to a New Year's celebration with my Jewish friends or family, which I'm not, I'm going to be with the family that I relate to more today than the people from my blood relatives that I don't really hang out with much. Everybody's different, especially if you become spiritual. I have to get some water. I'm still coming off this cold. Candy, talk about spirituality for a moment. I'll be right back.
So my when I looked it up, it feels very different to me. It said religion is a specific set of organized beliefs and practices, usually shared by a community or a group. Spirituality is more of an individual practice and has to do with having a sense of peace and purpose. It also relates to the process of developing beliefs around the meaning of life in connection with others. So the reason I really wanted to do this topic is because I was talking to a family that was thinking of getting an intervention, and they were talking about how after they went through rehab, what would they do? And I was suggesting 12-step programs. And immediately the father said, no, 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 no. It's a cult and it's a religion. And we already really feel that we don't need that part of it. So can she belong to that part of it, 12-step, without having the cult part? And I said, are you referring to the cult part as a higher power? And he said, well, you know, they say the Lord's Prayer at the end of it, and you know, on and on and on. And so I called Linda and said, okay, let's do this. And I told them about the show. And so, you know, for me, I remember when we first got into the program, Linda, they would say, you can make anything that you can't take to dinner, your higher power.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people used the group. You know, a lot of people use the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the girl that used Stevie Winwood?
Yes, I do. And it just brought back, I think I was 8 or 9 years old, and my mom and dad were in the front seat, of course, and my 2 sisters and me were in the back seat. And I was just looking out the window. I don't remember where we were going. But on Sundays, we would drive out to someplace and have a brunch. And I think I said, Dad, what's God? And he didn't know how to answer. So he said, see that tree? If you want that tree to be your God, that's your God. And till this day, I mean, I understand it now. But back then, I couldn't figure it out. Just like when he would talk about self, I would tell myself this. I go, well, what's self? It's the same thing when you discover things new, and until you bring it inside to understanding, yeah, if Stevie Winwood was her higher power, but it got her to where she needed to go, eventually your God opens up. And what I learned, I think it was around 78 when I got to the first program, it was very scary. I didn't understand, but I had like a breakthrough where I knew I needed this. Something was lacking inside, but I didn't want to become a religious fanatic because I wasn't. But when I started to understand, be still for I am God, or learn to pray, which is talking to God, and listening, which is meditation, and hearing the words, I began to see a God out there that would guide me, or a God within me. And all of a sudden I started to put it together to integrate. And I remember one of my first mentors in that program would say, Linda, if you can't trust me, trust God. And if you can't trust God, trust me. And that's when I really got it, because I needed help with a question I had, and she wasn't available when I called, and I figured something out on my own where I calmed down. So I began to see that there's something out there that I didn't know. And it's the same thing that we learned 30 plus years ago, how to get out of our heads to see outside that there's more. Even talking to Candy via Zoom. We're 5 miles away from each other where we live, but there's a connection. There's a God self going on that creates all of this interaction. God's in her house. God's in my house. God's on the computer. God's talking to you. God's within each of us. When you start to see it beyond, it's not just this religious, with me growing up with the everlasting light in the temple, or you with Jesus on the cross, or whatever, the Buddha, whatever. I learned butterflies, and I'll bring up the butterfly poem in a moment to help you see the spiritual aspects. We just had a question from Country a moment ago that wanted to know, can we be spiritual and religious at the same time? Absolutely. Absolutely. They are very independent. Explain that. Help him.
Well, I think, for me, I thought it was kind of like in the Catholic Church, in the old days, you weren't allowed to go to another church. I don't know. I guess you were going to go to hell or something if you did. And here I am, although I'm sorry if I hurt somebody else's feelings, but this is my feeling. It's that I'm a retired Catholic. And when I say that, I don't mean it to be disrespectful. I just mean my life is full with this spiritual connection. And I had a very strange view of never being good enough and never doing anything right when I was growing up, because, you know, when you go to confession, is when you alleviate the sins of the week. And I got to tell you, there's probably a 10-minute period I was going to heaven. And the rest of the time, I was on my way back. I couldn't keep track of the lies. I couldn't keep track of, you know, if you pass the cemetery, what you have to do. And I mean,
is there a ritual by a cemetery? I don't even know.
Yeah, there was too many things for this little ADHD mind to remember. So I think I got the spiritual part with a line in the big book that said, God is everything or he is nothing. And when I first read the book, I thought, well, this is really very religious. And particularly a lot of the things that Bill and Bob took. First, it was in the Episcopal Church in the Oxford group, and it was too religious, so they got rid of that. But there is no mention of Jesus. But I think that people were very uncomfortable calling a higher power anything other than God. I remember there was a girl that I went to meetings with, and she always called him HB. And I appreciated, coming from where I did, that everyone had their own
opinion or idea.
Where I came from, we all had to have the same guy.
That's what you learn in the program among other people outside your group. Like me being brought up in a totally Jewish neighborhood. I was only allowed to date Jewish boys. I was supposed to go to all the Jewish functions. But when I got into college and grad school and life in general, there's more than just Jews out there. And now I have people of different races and colors and religions, and they're people. They're just people. And however we feel, or if we integrate or we disagree, that's fine. We're people. Too bad the whole world can't get that message, because spiritually, if people would open up more spiritually, a lot of the world's problems would calm down, instead of all the categories and this is right and that's right and this is wrong and all the different whatever politically that's going on out there. If they just saw what's real, which is spirit, trees, butterflies, hearts, souls, people's problems, each other, which we have learned in fellowship, learning to get along with our fellows. We have learned in the program that we get along with people we probably never would have, quote, sought out in our activities. A lot of them, not all, but there's, you learn the unity. When I started finding this out, and I remember reading that the more I depended on God, the more independent I would become. And I didn't understand that. But when I was at my weakest, or even now, for those that know, I've been sick for 10 days. And all I did was, okay, God, what? I had to learn. I had to calm down. I had to rest. Whatever I had to go through these last 10 days, it was hard. But I'm here. I'm healthier. I'm stronger. And I'm ready for the next chapter. But sometimes, and I even think God will throw me down to get me to stop, because I'm like that little hamster on the wheel. I go till I break. And that's not healthy either, but that's just how I'm wired. But good orderly direction, G-O-D, is in my heart. Yes, I'm Jewish. Yes, I miss certain rituals of the Jewish community, but I don't have a drive to go chasing it like I used to. So I find other things to fill me up with my God. Okay, when my grandmother died, my mother died, when the family fell apart, everything started to change. And I think that's true for a lot of us, and especially as we get older, and if you're in the program, the religious, I will always be Jewish, which is religion, it's culture, it's a part of me, it's the history.
It's a race.
It's also a race in Israel, what's going on. But as far as spirituality, and we talk about God in general, the thing that really upsets me the most, and maybe you can help me with this, is when I'm online or I read somewhere, and, if you don't find Jesus, you're not a full human or whatever, or trust God. Well, who's to say that Jesus is any more God than my God? We all get to God. Sometimes it's more of the image as opposed to like the Buddha. or the Hindu. Everybody has, there's 3,200 religions. Who's to say who's the best or the most accurate? The thing is, we have a spirit, we have a God. And if you open up enough, we get quiet, be still for I am God, you'll start to feel the connection. You can feel it on the monitor. You can feel it in certain rooms. Even at, big box stores, you'll feel either positive or negative energy in there. But what you do for yourself is your private moments and finding what works best for you to get through this sea of life. I think that's what has helped us to fill up. Loneliness isn't always, I should say, wanting to drink or do drugs or overeat or go gambling or whatever the addiction might be, porn, sex. We're looking outside to fix the whole. We all have the loneliness. We all have a feeling of not being enough or not doing enough or not belonging.
Yeah.
We all have it, but I believe the spirituality helps us fill it up. Or take away. Do you both?
My business is an interventionist. When a family reaches the actual part of asking for help, which is usually about a year past what it should have been, they always say, well, I love this person. I've done everything I could for them. And, we're very religious people and I prayed to God. And, it's always so hard for me to say, you're very lucky you had this, religious connection because the prayers have certainly helped. And love will never get anybody clean and sober. We can't love them to, recovery, but we can certainly love them to death. And if you want to know about a spiritual connection, he sent me. I bring him with me. I take him into the room of any intervention. It's an honor and privilege to do the work that I do, but it's spiritual work. And I think 99% of most interventionists don't feel that way.
No, because you're above it and you see the truth and you know it's spiritual work and they're just going for the
man who
book.
Started the process of intervention was an Episcopal minister. So he certainly would have, and it was created in sitting in a circle instead of talking about the person that had died. We're trying to help the person have a life who is alive. So that's how the process started. And it was usually the people that were invited to an intervention were the first two rows of the funeral, if you were going to have one. And so it's very spiritually connected, which it isn't now. It's big biz. And
it has become big biz, which has taken away the beauty of the healing. It really
I can't ever let that be a part of my teaching, my life. It's has to be what an honor and privilege it is to do
to help another person. But that's like I was saying before, God's in you, God's in me, God's in your home, God's in my home. Yeah. It's just like, it's almost a year now that I was in Ohio and you suggested I go to Dr. Bob's home, which is where they wrote the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
And I saw the typewriter, I saw the kitchen, I saw where they had other meetings, but the people that were the caretakers of the home and the guides of the home, they were explaining how they channeled. It actually came through people like a medium. This book was channeled. It wasn't just research and let's leave out this word. It's the way it was just flowing like a medium and that they could feel the energy.
How much time did Dr. Bob have?
I'm sorry?
How much time did Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson have when they wrote this?
They weren't. They were just getting sober on their own.
Less than 3 years.
Okay.
So
I don't remember all that. They had nothing. It came through them. They were chosen. They were chosen to lead. It's what, 75 years now. I'm turning 38 years next in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll have 38 years.
Yes, you will.
38 years without drinking, smoking, or whatever I used to do in my younger years. But it's about looking for God. It's finding that you can surrender. It's letting go. It's believing that whatever the problem is, for the moment, which seems so big in our minds that can be overwhelming, that if we turn it over, as they say, like, let go, let God. Just like that phone call. Linda, if you can't trust me, trust God. It's like, well, what do I do? I trusted something bigger than me and things started working out. I'm getting chills as I say it. So people, if you're listening or watching this video or listening to the podcast part, don't try to figure it out. You can't. But if you just act as
drive
if,
you crazy.
no,
And
just
you know,
act.
part of getting into recovery, because what scared me was that I heard that it was a spiritual program. And if you weren't buying into it, although we agnostics, you weren't staying. And I've seen that true many, many, many times over the years. But the part that was interesting to me is the only part of when you're trying to fulfill the obligations that you have to stay sober is a sentence that says, came to believe in a power greater than ourselves. So it doesn't say you gotta. It doesn't.
No, it's a process that will eventually happen if you're open. Even if you're not open, it sort of happens. And one day, like they say, keep coming back. No, it's not a cult. There are cliques. Yes. There are people that.
Well, there are communities that gather together.
Yeah. And I or you may not belong.
I think it's trickier out here than it is most everywhere.
Maybe. My experience, but
we have 2,100 meetings a week here.
Just here in Los Angeles, and they're online. You can go online, you can go to Zoom, you can look up anybody, you can email Candy at candyfinnegan@aol.com, or you can email me at drlinda@lindasalvin.com if you need help or want questions or guidance. But the spirituality would be scary to anybody that comes in from using and is in a dark, painful place. Then all of a sudden it's like, what's going to happen? Am I going to be struck by lightning? And I'm going to say the poem that I've read for 25, 30 years on the radio, which is God, Are You Real? Which was actually given to me when I first got into a 12-step program in 1978. And that helped me see beyond what they were saying to me. And it says, it's a Sanskrit poem from the year 1200. And it says, God, are you real? The child whispered, God, speak to me. And a meadowlark sang, but the child did not hear. So the child said, God, speak to me. And the thunder rolled across the sky, but the child did not listen. So the child said, God, speak to me. And a star shone brightly, but the child did not see. So the child said, show me a miracle. And a child was born, but the child did not know. So the child exclaimed, touch me, God, show me you're real. Whereupon God reached down and touched the child, but the child brushed the butterfly away and walked away unknowingly. Now, Candy Finnegan knows how much I love butterflies. I have butterflies all over this house. But it's the butterfly that I've learned to recognize as a sign or a wink from God. And if that's how I can help somebody make it simpler to understand, like you're in the car, you're on a bus, you're in an Uber, whatever, and all of a sudden there's a butterfly and you're thinking of something, take that as a confirmation for that thought or that moment. And all of a sudden you'll become more one with the universe and where you stand. Just like how Candy and I met and going back and forth through years and all of a sudden developing this show to bring to you that may need our help. And don't be afraid to reach out, because we all come from somewhere and we all need something to help each of us recover from whatever we're recovering from. And we all have something. Take on from there, Candy.
Well, I think this younger population, and I can't give you the reason why, but I don't think they've been raised, at least I find in California. I think that...
Thank you, country.
I think that probably it's
on my website.
Not so true in maybe the Midwest and smaller towns, but is that people weren't raised in religions anymore. And so when they come in, and, we all at one point or another in our dependence and addiction have said, God, if you'll just get me out of here, I won't do it again. Well, until tomorrow. And then, so we had such a false sense of being saved. And really what I feel is with all these young people that are trying to recover and get sober and change their lives, is that it's daunting to think that they have to find this spiritual connection with a higher power that they don't have the first inclination, like you and I did, that there was a religious sector that we were associated with to learn how to listen.
I agree. And I also think the younger people were brought up on computers and phones where we were not. So it's a whole different feeling.
Well, I know an awful lot of kids who, TikTok and Instagram and all that is their higher power. And nothing is sacred anymore. I was talking about that the other day to my daughter is, we had sacred moments. And we had a saying in the old days, I love it. It's, stop and smell the roses. That type of intellect and teachings was not passed on to this generation, the younger generation, the 20s, the late teens. And it's a difficult process to teach. In the shaman thing, you find your spirit animal and which, is even difficult for a lot of people.
It is. And I still refer, speaking of spirit animals, if people want to understand, there's a great book on the market called Animal Speaks. A man by the name of Ted Andrews, who's now deceased, wrote that book years ago. And
years ago.
I've used it like as a dictionary and as a Bible almost. There's a snail, there's a bird, there's a butterfly, there's a horse, there's a praying mantis. Whatever you come across in your moment, look up the totem meaning and you'll see the lesson for your day. I do it all the time. It's wonderful. Or you can just type in, now that we have Google, of course, you can type in praying mantis and boom, that's what, you're going to get the message of strength and hope for the future and whatever it's supposed to, like a grasshopper pops in and it's to give you movement forward, And the totems that a lot of people use today aren't natural. Our totems or their totems might just be online and they don't know that there's anything more than 50,000 likes. I have 50,000 likes on one of my Instagram, but there's not 50,000 people watching the show right now. So I don't understand how that correlates. Oh yeah. Like. And at the end of the day, what does it mean? But a lot of people make their livelihood about that.
Oh, and the younger generation, particularly between 9 and 14, they can't go a day without playing video games or checking what everybody else is.
A totem, T-O-T-E-M. A totem is a symbol. Go Google the word totem. Somebody just
it's like a totem pole for the American Indian.
It's a symbol. Like, I'm going to go on my phone and not interrupt this, but I'm going to look up the word. I'll do praying mantis totem. And I'll explain it because I saw one like a year ago. I took a picture of it. It was beautiful on my bench out on my porch. And what it means is here, praying mantis totem. Those born with a praying mantis totem cannot be rushed in anything. They have learned the value of pacing their life and thinking carefully about each move they make. This person seems wholly calm, even in the middle of a chaotic emotional storm. People walking with praying mantises are typically spiritual in some way. And I was going through a huge shift in my life at that time where everything was like, oh my God, fix it. I was frantic. And I came home and there was this green praying mantis about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long on the ledge of the bench. And I just stood there and I looked at this beautiful thing and I thought, okay, I'm being taught something. I went and looked it up and said, calm down. Calm down. Yes, totem, T-O-T-E-M. So anytime you have something, Misty, just go online or get the books on totems, whether it's a butterfly, it could be a fly. Flies are a nuisance. They're negative. It's actually negative energy. When you read about flies and we swat them and then you feel bad you killed something alive. I mean, you can only kill or not kill every spider and bug. I understand it, but they're annoying. But go find the totem. Go find the meaning. Go look up butterfly.
Well, it says a natural object or animal that is believed by a particular society to have spiritual significance and is adopted by it as an emblem. A person or thing regarded as being symbolic or representative of a particular quality or concept. But, I grew up with Plains Indians. And so I grew up very much knowing what a totem pole was and the system, that different tribes had for their totems. And so it's, it isn't used like it was, that's for sure.
No, but the totem poles, I've always looked at the images of the faces, or they would have a crow, or they would have an eagle.
Yes.
They had different symbols, and everything would represent the earth or the water or Mother Earth or something with religion and God. And I never studied it, but I do have an affinity. Like in the state of Arizona, I can feel the Indian culture in some of the out back roads going through the state. If you have that feeling, follow it. Sometimes you learn and you wake up to, well, oh, look at a totem. It doesn't mean you're going to be in a cult. It's one more way, as me as a metaphysician can teach you how to connect with the universe out there. It's just one more tool. It's not a demand any more than going to a 12-step program demands. Everything is suggested. Even though we get overwhelmed, if we look at the list of quote requirements or steps they asked us to do, first couple of months, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do this? I can't tell that. It's overwhelming in any new environment. You go to a new restaurant, it's overwhelming till you know the menu. Anything new is change, but you take your time, like the praying mantis. Be at peace. Be still, for I am God. Candy and I can rant and rave for minutes of hours in a day.
Well,
and
you know what I learned
when it calms down.
What I learned too, it was years after I got in the program, is that praying is asking and meditation is listening.
Yeah,
and so it says prayer and meditation. So they go together. You just don't always ask.
Right.
You always have to listen to what's, coming into your heart. And
what someone else might be saying.
Yeah, exactly. Or what the message is, And they always say the longest distances between your head and your heart.
And the heart, right. It's kind of like what I said at the beginning, that prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening. But we're also taught to listen to the next person. Because if God's in me, God's in Candy, God's in you, Misty and Country and everybody else that's popping up with their questions, it's all there in all of us. So listen to each other, for our God selves will communicate.
Right.
It's not that difficult when we make it simple spiritually. If you want to get into the religious aspects, don't come to me about that. I think religion's beautiful, but I can't be there all the time. I broke away from organized spirituality per se, because I don't want rules. I want to be able to be me, but I still live in a structure. But not theirs. I found what works for me, like Candy found what works for her. And there's boundaries with all of us, but there's a sense of peace that we learn. There's a sense of self-worth that we gain. And that's all from working, quote unquote, the program. You learn to heal. And we are here to help you heal, integrate. You might have an addictive relative that you're concerned about. You might have an addictive mate. You might have an addictive sense of self in something that you're not right or ready to confront, but then email Candy at candyfinnegan@aol.com or me at drlinda@lindasalvin.com. Tell the truth. We'll guide you to where you need to go to help you get to where you can be. Because remember, we are mind, body, spirit, the mental part, the emotional part, the physical part, the spiritual part. And our mind can make us so crazy we don't know what's real half the time if you're just stuck in it. I get stuck in my head a lot. Then when it pop out, it's like, oh, it's just thoughts, not reality. That's hard sometimes to stop thinking, because we overthink, don't we, Candy?
Yes, always. When you try so hard, it makes it harder. Acceptance is the answer to all of our problems today. And one of them is not overthinking.
Stinking thinking. We all think, or like during the retrograde, as I said, we'll reminisce and we'll regret and we revisit and, oh, poor me, I'm such a horrible person, or I should have done this, I could have, would have, should have. Then all of a sudden you're back in the moment. Hey, here we are. This broadcast is being taped on September 13th, 2023. Boom. I'm not in 1970. I'm not in 1985. I'm not in 1993 or 2002. I'm here now with you and Candy Finnegan. We're doing the Recovery Wednesday show as we do every Wednesday. And we hope you tell your friends about it as well. So you download us on YouTube or any of the 100 platforms. The show is usually uploaded within 72 hours of the broadcast if you're catching us live. But spirituality is something that needs, I believe, to be incorporated in life for the balance, because it's the missing link. It's the missing link. If I define health, the state of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and not merely the absence of disease, it wasn't until I was in a traumatic situation that I realized the spiritual aspect of what health meant as a human being. So we heal when we bring all the aspects together. Candy works on the mental and the spiritual. I work on the spiritual and the emotional. Candy works on the emotional. And together it makes your body
and certainly
the physical all comes together. Yeah, it all comes together.
Yep. And the physical malady of addiction too, you know.
Well, because we're self-destructing, or the liver or the brain or the heart or your blood pressure, or the who knows what happens depending on what is being overused or abused, or if you're a sugar addict and you got 1,000 cavities all the time, or your gums are always bleeding, or you can't lose weight, or your diabetes levels are up, and there's always something. There's nobody perfect. Nobody. You just want to be as healthy as you can to get through life and live as long as you want or can, considering all the obstacles out there. We never know when it's your turn or my turn to go. But while we're here, make the best of it.
Absolutely. I think I'm grateful for a lot of things that have helped since I got in recovery. But I think that the spiritual connection of that I'm not alone in this has been one of the real gifts of, and I do believe that if you, the old saying, if you ain't praying, you ain't staying, but I do really believe that the spiritual connection that I've gained has given me so much wisdom and so much, I guess, peace.
It is peace, because you become more honest, you become more pure, you become more unselfish, you become more loving, you get out of yourself because you're feeling better and you're more able to be there for someone else, again, which is spreading the message or offering help or being of service. But by doing the inner work spiritually, it helps, like I said, to heal the resentment or the fear or the anxieties, the guilts, whatever we have processed and lived with or pushed down in life. The spiritual aspects helps us to rise above.
But Linda, I also feel that one of the sayings of you do the footwork and leave the results to a higher power has been really helpful for me, because as a small child, I just prayed that this would happen and didn't do anything about it. Come on, I need that pony. You got to find the horse, get my father to pay for it. I mean, it wasn't my higher power was going to dump it in my backyard.
Did you ever get the pony?
I got several ponies. Lucky for me. But it's that we have to work for the change.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Well, it's like they say, faith without works is dead. So you can have faith in God, or faith in a power greater than yourself, or faith in the pony, or faith in your father, or faith in your business, or faith in the show, or whatever. But if you're not going to, okay, let's use the show to put some faith out there. If you're not going to download it, you're not going to get the message. If you're going to put faith into work, eventually by repetition, and doing the work, something good's going to come out of it. I'm not thrilled with some of the results yet, but I'm not giving up, because I'm having faith that the more I do the work, the more it's going to take off in the way I want it to go.
Footwork.
I am doing footwork, and it's the footwork, whether I'm going over something about my family or my boyfriend or my job or finances or health or a dog, a pet, just whatever's going on in my world. Candy's got her 2 kids visiting right now. She's got a lot going on. It's overwhelming when she's so busy with her clients and she's on the phone all the time, and She's got a famous musician for her son, like her husband was famous. Her daughter just got a new job in nursing and ER. And everybody's grown up. I knew them when they were children, before they had big boy and big girl jobs.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah, well, you gave birth to them. Hear the mommy.
I got to tell you, I was thinking the other day, when they were 3 and 6, it was certainly 100% time consuming. But, there was a lot of worry involved in it. But 40 and 44 is about to kill me.
Because I got minds.
Because they don't listen to me and I'm a know-it-all. And, oh, Mom, that's what they, I go, you have
But if they didn't love you, they wouldn't come home.
Well, I have a nice home. So I keep thinking, the rent's free. So
the rent's free, and they can do laundry and cook off a mom.
Yeah, well, and my kids are my, absolutely the highlight of my life. But it's funny because I thought, well, when they hit 8, when they hit 20, when they hit 30, no, they're still in here to change. I change plans, but not as radically as they do. So, I'm just having to sit quiet and listen, which is, we both know,
it's hard sometimes.
Right.
But I lost my mom 14 years ago. I was 55 when I lost my mom, and I still miss her. I wish she was here today, but I'm glad I had all those years.
Yeah.
My dad's 94, but he's in a world of his own that I can't always just go over and hang out for obvious reasons. But it's that connection of family. Like, we won't have Jewish New Year dinners anymore. That tradition of spirit or whatever with the family about God and holidays and religion is gone for me with that part of the family. You've got to be grateful, even though they're all moaning and groaning and bitching in your house, you still have your kids coming home. Because someday maybe they won't. It's that yin yang thing. But we're down to about 4 minutes left in the show. If anybody out there has one more question, Misty, I know you've asked a few in country. I appreciate you every day coming on the show with some great questions. Again, it's okay to be religious and be spiritual. The beauty is put it together so you become whole and understand the different fragments that might be taking place inside you, where you can fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah, that would give you quite a life if you had both.
I think so. You don't have to go out and become an evangelist or a big, speaker about it, but it's more of an internal, like, gratitude. And Candy mentioned earlier, like a gratitude list. And we said it last week. If you do a gratitude list, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. What are you grateful for? And all of a sudden you're going to get out of that negative thinking. We all got that little man with the hammer going, I hate you. You're so ugly. You're this. Nobody likes you. And whatever your words are. And then all of a sudden, stop. You're okay. You look in the mirror, say, oh, it's you. Well, our brains will get to us.
But it's also that thing of stop and smell the roses.
Stop and smell the roses. Stop and watch for a butterfly. Stop and watch the show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m.
Misty.
Why are we letting traditions die with the older generation? That's a good topic for our next show.
Yes, it would be, because it's the truth.
Again, I think it goes back to the computers and the digital age, and people just don't have,
but I think that to can carry on a tradition, as you were saying, New Year's dinners.
If I were married and had kids, I absolutely would.
Well, no, it takes work, and since COVID, we are a lazy group of people.
It has become different since lockdown because we were more dependent on Zoom and we couldn't socialize or go to the hospital to see somebody die.
Community, except these little squares.
And now it's become more the reality than what used to be. Mm-hmm. So we'll do a show on traditions that are changing and how it affects us spiritually, or what might even add to addiction. A lot of people might be missing some of it. So internally abusing certain substances because that tradition may be gone. That's a great topic. We'll figure that out. Thanks, Misty. So we're at the end of the show. Candy, what would you like to say before we wrap up? Let them know where they can find you.
Yes, I'm at Candy Finnegan at AOL. And it's FINNIGAN. And what I'd like to leave you with is, just for a small amount of time, every day, sit quietly with yourself and look for something magnificent.
Be still, for I am God. Just let go, people. You're not going to fall off the planet. You just might be able to breathe a little more comfortably for the moment and without the pressure of trying to fix it and understand it all at once. I'm Dr. Linda Salvin. This is Recovery Wednesday with my co-host, Candy Finnegan. Saying goodbye till next week, and tell your friends to download. We'll see you then. What?
Thanks for joining us.
And thanks for joining us. Take care, everybody. God bless. See you soon.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed Recovery Wednesday. You can reach Dr. Linda at 888-509-1077 or at lindasalvin.com and Candy Finnegan at candyfinnegan@aol.com. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.